This is a 98 Honda Accord driver's side exterior door handle, and this is an extremely poor design. It's an astonishingly poor design. The handle is broken off. I'll show you that part in a minute, the outside part of it. But this is the part here that moves, the inner part of the handle. And there's plastic all along here, and there's just these little tiny parts of plastic here, which this is actually what supports the pulling force when you pull on it, because will just bend. It's just thin, it'll just bend and break instantly. And what's astonishing is these web portions. You could see this webbing that is made here on each side that forms this. They've got all this strength they've built into this, but I'll show you later that this webbing, all of this area in here, is not connected to the handle, the part that you pull on. It's only connected at that little tiny space right there, so maybe 5 square millimeters or something, and over here. So of course it breaks. Of course, it's just, whoever designed this did not understand geometry, did not understand forces. It's that poor. It's just amazing, amazingly poor. So it's actually really difficult to remove this handle. You have to take the window track out and a lot of other stuff I don't want to deal with. I know a little bit about gluing. I'm not going to use the absolute strongest, most flexible glue. I'm just going to use a high quality hobby store medium cyanoacrylate glue, and I'm going to put little carbon fibers across this gap. There's about a 3 millimeter gap. It's just a gap of air. I'm going to bridge this webbing down here in the area where it needs to be bridged. I'm going to do that later. So it's going to be a multi-step process. I'm going to take multiple little short videos. But I'm going to show, and hopefully this will work. I'll have to test it over time, but it should work because I'm just going to keep everything really tight and rigid and reinforce that area, and hopefully everything will work out. But I just wanted to show you that, and I'll go down here and show you the handle itself, the outside part of it. This is the part here that you pull out on. This is looking at the inside. And I don't know if you can see this, but that's just, again, that's that little tiny part. That's just that little tiny area on each side, there and there. That's the only thing that holds the handle on when you pull on it. That's the only thing that keeps it from just instantly snapping off. You look at these little, there's a little tiny ridge here. It's about 1 millimeter tall and about a little over 1 millimeter wide or so. But it does absolutely nothing whatsoever. It's completely not connected to the other part of that molding. It's just astonishing. So it's like some kind of weird remnant, like somebody at some time thought they were going to design this and it was going to be molded together, but it's just not. and again, here's where it's splintered and broken, fractured across the top here. So and that goes on, you know, like this. And I just took a paper towel and I jammed this outward so I could work on it and glue it. So I'll hopefully show some more as I move this along and try to make this work. And I've just been using an X-Acto knife to just scratch this plastic to help the CA glue and the carbon fiber rods bond to these areas. I've been scratching these areas on this part of the handle and the other part of the handle that I showed you. Okay, so I'm just showing you on the passenger door handle that's not broken. I'm showing you what I'm talking about. You see that? That's just a gap. That's just a gap of air. There's nothing there. They molded all this strength in here and they just bridged this. This is what, just 2 of these, one on each side, is what you pull. There's no connection here at all. It's just a complete failure of design. Whoever was doing this did not know what they were doing. There's no other explanation. There's no excuse for this. It's just poor design, just really poor. I may even reinforce some of these handles a little bit before they break, just, you know, later on. But yeah, that explains it and that shows it. So I just used some nice gap filling hobby store CA. It's a little bit thick, so it helped it kind of make it a little easier. And I just used a carbon fiber rod. I realized if I left the rod long, oh, it's hard to get an angle on this. If I left the rod long, I could stick it up in there and glue it up in there. I just put a bunch of glue all over the end of the rod and just jammed it up in there in the gap. And it kind of sits on a little bit of an angle, you can see, as it goes up in that gap. And just stuck it on there, and I'm going to let it cure, and I'll just trim it off and smooth it off with the Dremel tool after I put the other one on. I haven't done the other one yet. So, and of course I did some masking so the glue wouldn't drip down and ruin the paint. So I ended up putting some more carbon fiber rods in there. I think there's 3 there and 4 there total. I think if I had to do it over again, I would have just used 1 and then switched to epoxy and smear some epoxy in there. I'm going to do that anyway. I think I'm going to mix some up and just try to make sure everything's kind of bonded together and covered. I don't have a lot of confidence in CA over time with the vibration and heat and everything. But yeah, so I would have just used 1. But of course, I glued on the handle with CA first, let that dry, and then put in a single rod. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut these off, see how that goes, and maybe mix up some epoxy. But kind of just tried to go around on each side of the first rod, kind of fill things in. They're kind of on different angles to try to follow some of the contours in the corner inside there. But we'll see if it works out. Okay, I just used a cutoff wheel and one of these kind of bits here on a Dremel tool and smooth this up. And you should be able to see this better now, what was going on here. You can see the rods there. I think there's maybe 3 or 4, 3 on that one. It's kind of clustered in there. And then the other side. So, I guess this will be the moment of truth here. I'll just pull this out and see what we got. Try to get this, get to the key. Okay, so there we go. And might put a little epoxy in there, but yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. If it fails, I'll come back sooner and try to make some kind of update. And if it lasts a year, maybe I'll come back and say, hey, it's lasted at least a year. But I'm really happy, obviously, to have this back on. I'm just hoping it'll last.